Today we're going to talk about how our thoughts can shape our reality. Did you know that what we think about can determine who we become in the future? Writer Norman Peele, who lived a full 95 years and became one of the founders of positive thinking, claimed just that. He said, "We become the kind of people we usually imagine ourselves to be." Imagine that your thoughts are like magnets that attract into your life what you are constantly imagining. Norman Peele collected many stories to support his ideas, and therein lies the real power of positive thinking. Interestingly, his work has inspired millions of people around the world, and his ideas are still relevant today. There is a constant tendency in human nature. It is that we become the people we think we are. And if you examine the thoughts that are going through your mind now, you can determine what you'll be like in 10 years' time, said author Norman Peele. In his book The Surprising Results of Positive Thinking, Norman Peele shares his own experiences and observations. One such story happened to him during a night train journey. As he boarded the train, the conductor asked him if he was ready for a good night's sleep. Norman, full of confidence, replied in the affirmative and went to his compartment. The atmosphere was so comfortable that he soon fell into a deep sleep. The next morning, when the conductor asked how he had slept, Norman happily confirmed that he had had a wonderful night's sleep. But the conductor told him about another passenger in the same compartment who was complaining of a sleepless night. The thing is, the conductor, whom we already know, once made a surprising discovery. Each time before the train departed, he asked the passengers whether they expected to sleep well that night, and in the morning he found out whether their expectations had been fulfilled. The conductor asked me if I knew the difference between myself and the gentleman who was traveling in the same compartment with me. The difference was that I had made up my mind to get a good night's sleep, and I had succeeded. My neighbor had made up his mind that he couldn't sleep on the train. The conductor discovered this years ago. He noticed that his passengers slept when they had this intention. Those who were afraid of not being able to sleep stayed awake until the morning. What happened to the passengers was exactly what they had prepared their minds for, Norman Peele explained. Another inspiring story from Norman Peele's life is that of a woman called Helena Zellieta. She was the owner of a Mexican restaurant and unfortunately lost her eyesight. Soon after, her husband was killed in an accident and Helena fell into a deep depression. But instead of giving up, she decided to change her life. Helena began to look for a way out of her grief and, despite the difficulties, she was able to not only rebuild her life, but also succeed in her business. During that dinner, Mrs. Zellieta expressed a principle that guides her life. "Always act," she said, "as if defeat is impossible for you." Today, Helena is an author of cookery books and lectures on the subject. This is an example of a strong-willed person who does everything possible to overcome the difficulties in her life. Weak-minded people retreat in the face of obstacles. They react painfully to criticism and lose courage. They complain and fail. Not all the stories Norman Peele tells have happy endings, but he calls their heroes winners. For example, the story of a boy called Jim Key who lost his leg to a serious illness at the age of 14. Despite this, he didn't give up and continued to support his football team by attending training and matches. Jim became a symbol of courage and optimism for his teammates, and the team, inspired by his spirit, went through a season without a loss. The players on the team saw Jim Key always smiling. He never missed a training session and was always an example of courage to the other boys. Thanks to Jim's support, the team went the whole season without a loss. The coach decided to hold a banquet in the boys' honor, and the players of the team prepared a ball with their autographs as a present for him, said Norman Peele. Unfortunately, Jim was unable to attend the banquet in his honor because his illness had returned. He visited the trainer 2 weeks later, knowing that his days were numbered. But even at that difficult moment, he left a legacy of courage and support that inspired his team. Norman Peele's stories remind us that despite challenges, we can choose how we respond to them. Our thoughts and attitudes shape our reality, and even in the most difficult situations, we can find the strength to make positive changes. Some might say, "But Jim is dead, positive thinking didn't get him very far." Jim knew how to take action and how to make something inspiring out of the worst possible situation. He knew what was in front of him, but he was determined not to give up. Jim used his life to bring courage, faith, and joy into the lives of those around him. Would you say that a man who has used his life in this way has failed? Norman Peele pointed out that many people do not understand the essence of positive thinking. According to him, the power of positive thinking is the power of the human mind. Peele emphasizes that the power of the mind lies in not accepting defeat as the ultimate reality. He encourages us to always hope for the best, even when life presents us with difficult challenges. Action always follows thought, he says. If we believe in happiness and success, they will surely come to us. Always hope for the best when faced with dashed hopes and obstacles. If you face challenges with the belief that you can overcome them, you will avoid defeat. Action always follows thought. And if you keep the thought that you will be lucky in your mind for a long time, luck will follow you. This principle applies to all situations that may arise in life, explained Norman Peele. So, as we can see from Norman Peele's stories, the power of positive thinking can really change our lives. It's not just pretty words, it's a real approach that helps people cope with difficulties and find light in even the darkest situations. Positive thinking isn't about ignoring problems, it's about believing in our own strengths and abilities. When we set ourselves up for success and hope for the best, we open doors to new possibilities and solutions. As the examples of Jim Key and Helena Zalayat have shown, even in the most difficult circumstances it is possible to find the strength to fight and be inspired. So let's remember that our thoughts create our reality. If we think positively and believe in ourselves, we can overcome any obstacle and achieve our goals. Life is full of possibilities, and it all starts with the way we think.